Oh, I haven't got fucking Umbra in my title.
Purity. Seems like everybody's trying to reach it. But the closer we get to being secure, the more insecure we feel. Type shit. Type shit. There he is. What?
I'm just doing a perma character who's just going to pretend to be a security guard at City Hall.
Benedict security.
Am I quiet? I feel like the music was louder than me. There you go.
Now I'm loud, and I'm using my condenser.
Get a picture for it. There he is. Turn the music down a bit.
You know, it's always been my dream to keep people safe. Even as a young boy, I was running around the playground, beating up the kids who was mean to girls. But I could never keep myself safe. I could never stand up for myself until I was big and strong like my pa. But then I took it too far. I hurt people. Made people cry, I made them bleed. I made them fear my name. All that's about to change. I'm in a new place, a new city. It's time for me to put the security in the name. Benedict Security.
Where'd you clip that? See if that works with music on.
Good day, sir. Hey. It's as if the world just reached up and gave me a gift. A car right there for the taking. It's as if God himself had given me a great bounty to aid me on my righteous mission. Now my next step was to go and get my gun license. And then get myself a gat. Well, I had to shed my current licenses.
Wait. Instead of talking to people, shall I just narrate? Shall I just make him just narrate instead of talking to anyone directly?
I entered the city hall, afraid of this new environment. Is this where I would make my living? Or would I be cast aside like so many before me? There was a dame behind the desk. I said, "Hello, miss. Can I get my licenses?" She was a sweet thing, couldn't have been older than 38. But she had a face that told a tale. Clearly seen the world and not just its pretty parts. I walked away from her, knowing that wouldn't be the last time I'd see her. She would haunt my dreams the rest of my life. Benedict Security. I had to go and get my blicky. so I could do my job and keep the streets safe. I stopped still in my tracks. I didn't even reach the light. There it was, lit up for all to see. The Umbra sign. I thought it kind of funny, 'cause that's the name of the place I was. I parked up and got ready to go and get myself the tool of my defense and the security of those around me. But first I had a choice to make. The man behind the counter had seen his fair share of assholes walk in. I figured I'd be on my best behavior. I made sure I minded my pleases and thank yous. And I bought a combat pistol. But I didn't know what fucking ammo it took. I bought one round of 9mm Luger. It fit the gun, so I bought another 89 of them. I went outside and finished loading my piece. And then I had the biggest decision of my life to make. How would I stand?
That's a good shout. Where is... Oh, there it is.
I decided how I would present myself. So I drove back to the city hall, and I prepared for my first shift. It was about to be a long night, the longest night of my life so far. Boy, little did I know the hells that were about to face me in the city of Los Santos.
Is that Alien? That's too silly. That's just too silly.
I took up my post next to Louise. I knew that no matter what happened, I would protect her. Hell, she's the one who gave me my state ID, my identity. And I would not let her down like I let down my little sister back in '92. You see, we had some bad people living in our neighborhood that would come by every evening and ask my pa for money. Till one night, he said, "No, I got no more to give yous." So instead of taking money from my father, they went to my sister's room and they smashed her piggy bank and made away with all of her coins. She never forgot it. 6 years later, she was out on the streets selling Girl Scout cookies. She became a sugar whore. and I blamed myself for it. And in that moment, I promised myself something. Louise would never be out there selling scout goodies. Well, my name isn't Benedict Security. I figured I'd make myself familiar with my new surroundings. Actually, I thought I should probably get hired on.
You have reached an auto.
Phone rang, but there was nobody home. It's like that time I went home to try and get a bite to eat, but my ma had slipped and fallen and broken her neck. I looked over her and I said, "L, Ma. L." I thought I'd have a look around, see what places were open to me. Above the door it read, "Staff, Specialized Trial and Appeals Funhouse Facility."
This is Armored. The Armored Run.
The name pissed me off, so I checked out the offices. But that door was shut to me too. I thought I'd check a little bit further afield. So I went to check out the elevator. The elevator opened to me like the legs of a prostitute. I checked the garage. Everything appeared to be in order. Security was down there doing their jobs. I saw one of my new colleagues, so I approached her and checked her badge. Her name was Linda. I didn't like Linda, so I left. I'd spent my time in the garage, so I figured I'd go and check the security on the first floor. The air was cold up here. Stale. Smelled like mothballs and cough medicine. The chandelier made a rattle as I walked past it. God, I remember that chandelier. So fragile, like even the breeze of me walking past made it unsure of itself. That chandelier was a lot like our justice system. Flawed and shaky. I made my way onto the balcony. I went to the bathroom to take a shit. But there was a massive juggalo shit in there. I checked another stall. I was too shy to take a shit, so I just pissed from my cock in there. I didn't bother shaking or washing my hands. The city hall already had the stink of the city on it. Out on the balcony, I could oversee the cafeteria. There were a bunch of tables and chairs and sofas set up like it was some kind of makeshift courtroom. I finished my sweep of the floor, and I returned to the lobby. On my way back to the elevator, the thoughts started coming in. Will this be the rest of my days? Just walking around alone in an empty city hall. Looking at the sign, I could see floor 2 was the archive. I didn't want to see the archive. I didn't want to know about the perversions of the city yet. I just got here. But on floor 3 and 4. Why the fuck the secretary's got 2 floors? I figured I could find the secretary. I went to floor 4 instead of 3. So who would go to floor 3? The door was locked. So I ran down the stairs to check the floor 3. On the way, I really needed to fart. I probably should have shit back there in the bathroom. There was a fire exit. Who puts a fire exit on a 3rd floor? Again, all these doors was locked on me. I went back to the lobby. And I prepared for the rest of my shift. Then I saw them. I made it seem like I didn't notice them, but there were 2 men sitting in the lobby. They were parts of it. I snuck around the side down by the computer desks. I went back down their way. I could see them, but I couldn't hear them talking yet. I'm fairly sure they were up to no good. I went to walk behind them to see if I could eavesdrop on their conversation and see what nefarious deeds they could be up to. God knows what anybody's up to in this city, though. All I knew is I got a job to do. And my job is keeping this city hall safe. So I sat down and I started listening in. They was talking about the usual things, you know, the game, how their wives had been. But then one of them said something that stuck with me. He said, "How long do you think it'll all last? A time on this mortal coil." That stuck with me. Turns out these weren't the nefarious criminals I thought they were. So I went to stand by the door and continue my shift. When I got back to my station by the door, I noticed a man had entered. He had all the markings of a sheriff. Took out his phone next to my dear sweet. I forgot her fucking name. He took out his phone next to my dear sweet Louise and started talking. As I went over to confirm her name was Louise because I forgot, I could hear him say, I guess he had a bit of a drawl to his voice. Can't judge a guy for that. I'm sure he was just doing his best. As we all are. As we all are. It was that moment I realized that maybe I'd truly found my place. Maybe I'd finally found something I could keep safe. Even if it was just the lobby of a city hall. As the clock ticked by and the minutes got longer and shorter and then longer and then shorter again, I had this wave of emotion come over me. I realized I was bored. And I was thankful for that. The man approached me, walking past saying, "Hello, sir." Seemed like a nice enough guy. I wished him well on his way. He didn't know that I would hold him in my soul for the rest of my days. Who knows when any of our times are up. I went outside to check out the steps and also get a bit of fresh air. It had been a long shift so far. Ah, Los Santos. What a cesspit of a city. The breeze is going through the trees, rustling them. It'll make the top of my head cold. It was only 2 years prior when my Martha told me that I had to shave my head because the male pattern baldness was getting me. When I got back inside the lobby, I figured I would try the DOJ line again and see if one of them could get me hired on.
Magistrate Terry Fisk, how may I help you?
A man answered the phone, presented himself as Magistrate Terry Fisk. Could this be the guy? Could this be the guy who would finally cure me of my boredom in the lobby of City Hall and finally hire me on for my job? The job I'd been waiting for my entire life. I didn't know what to say to him. All I knew is I couldn't stay on this phone any longer. The lobby of the City Hall needed defending, and I was the only guy who could do it. So I hung up the phone, and I went back to patrolling the City Hall.
What have we been good so far? Good bit? I could just make him never have an actual conversation.
He entered through the main door and stood in the middle of the lobby. He was wearing a bowler hat, but he carried himself well. He seemed to be a man of great renown here. I introduced myself by showing him my state ID. Surely he'd heard the tales of me by now. I was a top security guard back in Boston.
I'll be honest, never heard of you.
He had a bit of a rat-like face, but there was something in his eyes. He seemed like a genuine guy. And this was the man who would give me my shot. The man who would bring me on as the head of security for the City Hall.
We already have a head of security.
Be the reason that I could make my mark on this city. He told me there was already a head of security. At that point, while my initial dream was crushed, the new dream rose. It rose in me like a fire from a phoenix that had died and reignited. You see, I wasn't one to give up. I ain't like my pa. I would take whatever job they would give me and I would rise up through the ranks until I deemed myself worthy. They would see what I had to give. The man went silent for a moment and looked on a computer. He seemed almost nervous in his nature, skittish even. We stood there silently for a moment, just enjoying each other's company, until he finally said,
Why are you narrating everything you're doing and seeing?
his tone changed a little bit, and he asked me why I was narrating everything I was doing and seeing. Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't have an answer for him. Who lives knows who they truly are, knows what their future holds.
Help!
All we ever have is what's right in front of us, this time and place. Right now, I believe I'd met the man himself. The man from the phone. The man who would seal my destiny. Magistrate Terry Fisk.
Oh, she's busy.
He checked his phone. It appeared he was trying to contact somebody.
Is one of your guys down at City Hall? Oh no, there's got a gentleman down there. He looks like he's wearing one of your uniforms.
He pulled out his phone and started talking to a guy called McCain. He said one of McCain's guys was down at City Hall wearing one of his costumes. What uniforms?
We're in the lobby at the moment.
I figured I wouldn't waste any more of the man's time. So I went about the lobby. I needed to check in on my darling Louise, see how she was doing. The two men I had been suspicious of earlier were still just sat there, talking about life. God, I wish I could sit down and talk about life sometimes, but I had a job to do. As I walked back behind Louise, I caught a whiff of her. She smelled like petunias. She smelled like a warm evening and a cold rain.
My security guards.
Terry, the magistrate, said something, but I couldn't quite hear him. At that moment, another man entered the city hall. He had a gun drawn. I was nervous, but he held a stature about him. A stature I immediately respected. He was about 6 foot tall. He had a wonderful mustache. I knew at that very moment I would comply with every word that man had to say.
What's your name, friend?
He asked me my name. I responded. I told him, "Nice to meet you, sir. My name's Benedict Security. I was told to come to City Hall for a job as a security guard." The numbers in the lobby grew, from just being me by myself with the two fellas talking about life. There were now 6 of us. 4 of them were cops.
First name is Benedict?
An officer in a circular hat asked me if my first name was Benedict. Now, while he was correct, I didn't really know how to respond, because I'd just shown him my state ID. Seemed like a bit of an erroneous question to me.
What department do you work for, Mr. Security?
The cop with the mustache asked me what department I worked for. Little did he know I didn't work for any department. I picked up my uniform from a spirit Halloween. My ma always told me, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Those are words I took to heart more than the cholesterol from a baked CD.
Me ponders if he has cancer. Do you have cancer?
The officer said something strange then. He pondered if I had cancer, then asked me if I had cancer. I didn't know. I hadn't been for a checkup in months. The last time I went, the doctor stuck his finger in my ass. He then asked me if I was a Make-A-Wish. God, I'd made so many wishes at that point, but not one had come true. The only wish I was hoping to come true
one of them troubled midlife
that I'd
crisis
become a security
situations
guard.
where he can't understand. He's sort of trying to deal with his trauma. Still don't know how he got that uniform.
I stopped listening at that point and went back around my rounds.
Yeah, he said he wanted to be hired on as
The marble was cold underneath my feet, so I went onto the carpet where it was a little bit warmer. These were the same shoes I'd had for many years. At that moment, I realized something had overtaken me. A great first. So I walked back through the lobby towards the water cooler, hoping I could clinch my first. I looked at the water cooler. I pressed the button to put it on its cool function instead of ambient temperature. I drank deep. It hydrated me. It nourished me. Just like I already felt, this city was nourishing my broken soul.
Corrupting his system with that water. He's a robot or something.
I finished my cup of water and I went back around my rounds. The two fellas were still sat there, talking about politics.
Maybe if I put my finger up his ass, just maybe, it will reset him.
I walked past the doctors.
I just gotta go.
I
in
mean
his
the
coat.
police officers. Damn it. And they were talking about putting their finger in people's asses. I carried on my rounds.
That's a strange
Do you want me to grab him?
I walked back behind Louise and
I
that
wanna
asshole
figure out if
Nathan.
he's alive or not. He's a real person.
Yeah. Well,
God, she smelled fantastic.
If he isn't a real person.
At that
How
point,
would
the
you
air had
tell?
become stuffy from the amount of people in the city hall. So I went outside for some fresh air.
He has a gun in his holster.
Hello.
A dame walked up to me and said hello. Had long hair. For some reason she was wearing bunny ears, but we were in July. Easter was a long way off. He said hello to me and I returned the greeting. I said, "How was you, miss?"
Here, you seem stressed. Have a cigarette with me.
She handed me a cigarette. It was the first show of kindness anybody had given me in this city. I just got weird looks normally. This was a gesture I would never forget. I lit the cigarette using the Zippo my pa gave me. And remember the joke he always told. What's the difference
you're gonna
between a
put out a
rhino and a
cigarette.
Zippo? One's as heavy as a rhino, and the other's a little lighter.
I'm
took
gonna
a deep-
corrode your system, you piece of shit robot.
A man came up
I'm
behind me.
gonna break your circuit wire.
He started screaming and spraying me with a
I'm gonna
fire
do-
extinguisher, thinking I was a robot.
Come on, robot.
Little did he know I wasn't a
Come
robot.
on.
And I was bald, so all the powder was just flying off the back of my head.
God damn it, he's like a cow.
I carried on enjoying my cigarette. I couldn't see where the young lady had gone who gave me the cigarette. But also, at the same time, I was looking forwards and being cinematic, so I wouldn't see where she was. The wind picked up. Started making me feel a little bit cold, so I put my cigarette out and I went back inside to carry on my shift.
As long as he's trespassed.
I don't see any reason.
Back inside the city hall, I took my station back up, underneath the seal of Los Santos. With its fish, its flag, its owl, and its Sasquatch. They weren't just animals and wildlife. They were symbols. Symbols of the city we lived in. Symbols of who we were. A couple people walked into the city hall. They got their paychecks, went about their business. There were no security threats. As the day went on, as the night grew darker, I knew I'd finally found my place. Benedict Security. He finally had a job. I thought I might add a bit of spice to my job, so as people left the city hall from now on, I'd say things like, "Have a wonderful evening. Come back soon." Or, "Have you tried the lasagna in the cafeteria?" Yeah, the place had a cafeteria. What kind of city hall would hire this many people and not have a cafeteria? All the food looked a little bit flat, but you know what? It was life. Sometimes in life you gotta take the good and the bad, the flat and the texture. I went outside to see if the cops had gone yet. And I thought, you know what? I'm feeling a bit peckish. So I started heading towards the cafeteria. I walked past the ATMs and thought to myself, no point in checking those. I ain't even been hired on yet. I went inside the cafeteria and ascended the steps. It was the same cafeteria I saw earlier when I was looking over the balcony. And boy, oh boy, when I tell you they had a lot of food in this place, they had a lot of food in this place. There was apples. There was hot dogs. I saw pasta. I saw salad. I saw so much food, but just like happiness, it was out of reach. As I was gazing over the food, the lady who was getting her paycheck came in and said, "Hello, sir." At that moment, I was suddenly attacked from behind. The magistrate, Terry Fisk, hit me with his gavel. The back of my head started bleeding. Luckily, it was just a surface-level wound. I didn't quite understand why he did that. I'm guessing it must have been blooding me into the city.
Here you go. Straight from Cagino.
The young lady walked up behind me and she slid a wet piece of pizza into my bare hand. I didn't know how to take it, so I thanked her kindly for making my hand messy, and then I ate it. She said it was from a place called Cagino's. Then the metrosexual-looking young man with her came up behind me and gave me 5 steak dinners. It was a very kind gesture, something I really needed on my first day in the city. As an unemployed security guard, well, it was that moment I had to learn that I needed to be thankful for the kindness of strangers. Those two taught me a valuable lesson that day. It ain't all bad. Not everybody's like your pa. There's good in people. There's good in the city.
I like it.
I went back to the lobby to carry on security guarding.
I can't really hire him, so.
He looks
Those
like
are-
he's hired by Metro.
There was a fern next to the door on the way down. Brought back a memory of my grandma's house. She used to be a big-time gambler, always betting on the horses. And whenever she was angry, whenever a horse lost, she'd put out a cigar on the fern. And she'd say, "Feel the burn, fern." And then she'd cackle to herself. I didn't know what was coming over me. Was it emotion? Was it just rumination? I tried to push it away from my mind, and I went back to the lobby. I looked at the ATMs and I chuckled because I'd been watching an internet video the other day where ATM was the acronym for ass to mouth. But I knew here that did not mean ass to mouth. It meant automatic transfer machine. The two gentlemen who'd been chatting had been there for 2 hours at that point. So I asked them if they needed any help. They said, "Nah, we're just taking a load off on our lunch breaks." I says to them, "What, your lunch break's 2 hours long?" They said, "Yeah. We're bankers, we work at Maze Bank." I didn't really have much to come back with, so I just wished them a pleasant day and went back on my way. And there I saw it. The reason for it all. The flag.
Yeah.
I saluted the flag and I thought about everybody who'd given their freedom and their lives for me to be here.
Should we call a medical professional?
And then I went back about my duties.
The only medical professionals available are from
As I was walking back to the carpeted area, I heard the three talking about medical professionals.
No, they're not even available. They're not a.
I wondered
Nor
if
are
they
they
could possibly
available?
be talking about me.
Hang on, I'll call.
Yeah, they last time I yeah.
But then I realized that would be insane. Why would anybody think there was any medical issue with me? I was just going about my duty. I could probably get my head looked at though. I had been hit with a blunt object.
Are you alright, Benedict?
Magistrate walked up behind me and asked me if I was okay. I didn't really know why he was asking me. He probably knew that it just hit me in the head with a gavel, so I was feeling a little bit sore, but I didn't take it personal. I know what initiation rituals are like. Christ. I've been to college. I've been around the block. I know what hazing's like. There was one day in my college, at my house,
What's your name, sir?
Club Beta Gamma. The floor was interrupted. The nice lady who slid the wet pizza into my hand and got an olive stuck on my ring finger. Like some kind of messy, calorie-dense proposal. She asked me if I was okay. I responded, yeah, I'm fine. Head's a little bit sore. And then I remembered she hadn't asked me if I was okay. She asked me what my
I
name was.
asked what your name was.
Embarrassed, I chuckled to myself. Ha ha ha. And then I represented my state ID. So they could see my charming smile in my
Benedict
picture.
Security.
Ever since I was a boy, people had made fun of me for having security as my surname. Funnily enough, having the name security as my surname actually made me very insecure. Until one day I met a camp counselor that would change my life. I was 14 years old at summer camp. I was learning to play racquetball with the boys, and then they all got a little bit excited and started beating me up. Well, this camp counselor, she ran over, she picked me up and she said, look here, kid, you got nothing to be afraid of. There's people in this world who are going to try and hurt you. But you know how to deal with that. You keep on keeping on, Benedict. You be stronger than the hurt. You heal wounds, you don't make them. Now, while you may be insecure, you be the security other people need. That stayed with me. The metrosexual-looking guy came up behind me and put raw ground beef in my pocket. I wasn't sure if this was an invitation to some kind of back alley deal, or if he was just giving me something to focus myself with. I could maybe see if I could cook the ground beef by rolling it between my hands. I accidentally pulled out my gun and immediately put it back away, very embarrassed. The young lady threw $1 at me. Me being the greedy little cherub I am, I picked it straight up. But I couldn't. Just like happiness, the dollar bill eluded me. I even got down on my hands and knees. But I could not pick it up. Probably because I wasn't hired there and didn't have permissions to remove stuff. And then the noir music I was listening to changed, and they started giving me money.
I also give.
It was like I was listening to a much sexier track, and I started feeling myself. So I figured I'd lighten everybody's days. I'd do a funny little thing. I thought I might, play a little role. Walk around the city hall like I was a man-eater. Strut my shit. You see, I've been brought up in Boston in the early 2000s. I knew how to strut my stuff. I walked past the two bankers, and they said some very blue remarks about me and my walk. I immediately got embarrassed, and I went back. The evening had taken a turn for the ridiculous, but I'd made some money. I'd been hit in the back of the head with a gavel. For some reason I had ground beef in my pocket. So at that moment I was given another $13. I thanked the man for it. Then the nice young lady came up behind me, and she gave me a meat-free combo. I said, thank you, ma'am. I'm not a lesbian, but I'll take it anyway. Although, maybe I was. Maybe I'd been wrong the entire time. I started taking further notice of my environment. There was a strange pattern in the middle of concentric circles in the lobby. It looked like a star, but not a regular star, like a ninja star. Is it the way the city hall is used to throw justice at people? Like the shuriken of a shinobi, or a ninja. All I knew is that I'd found my place. And it was like that creaky chandelier up by the balcony had been greased up. So all of a sudden I felt the aches and creaks of my mind just going away. Like somebody stuck a can of WD-40 in my ear and blew all the rust off my brain. I felt free. It was about time to do my rounds again. It was at that moment the young lady walked up behind me and slipped something into my pocket. It was a note. It said, "To Benedict." It read as, "You're a wonder man. Don't let anyone ever tell you that your presence isn't welcome. With care." The random lady who slid a piece of wet pizza. I had to take a moment before I carried on reading because I broke a little bit. I had to be careful about laughing too much because my nose starts bleeding lately. The random lady who slid a piece of wet pizza in your hand and an olive slid onto your ring finger. It's at that moment I realized a young dame, standing at about 5'5" with the long, somewhat some-colored hair. I couldn't tell because I had a noir filter on. She'd just done something nobody had ever done. She made my day. With that, I went back around my rounds. This time I had to check out floor 5. Make sure the muckety-muck hadn't gotten up there and started causing a mess. I approached the elevator, my boots clacking on the floor. The elevator slid open with that familiar sound of metal on metal, rubber on rubber, rust on rust. As I reached the 5th floor, familiar fear came over me. Even though I was inside the building, I could still tell how high up I was. I could see a sign next to the door. It said Governor's Office. Well, actually, it just said Governor, but I was assuming it was the Governor's Office. Right next to the out-of-service elevator. There was nothing more to see up here, so I figured I'd take the stairs back down, get on a few extra steps. I checked my Galaxy F3 watch and saw that I'd done 8,000 steps that day and burnt 427 calories. You know what? It wasn't bad, especially I've been getting a bit of extra punch lately. Back in my Banner hotel room, all I'd have to live off of was room service. There it was again, floor 4. The desk that belonged to that Honey Dior and the DOJ chiefs. I wondered if I'd ever meet them. I figured I'd take the rest of the stairs down, right back down to the lobby. You know, it's good exercise. With my family history, my heart needed all the help it could get. On the way back down the stairs, I started to feel a little bit funny. My head, it felt fuzzy. Not like a headache. Like there was a cold man inside my brain and he was shivering. I took a moment to take note of what was happening. Then I carried on down the stairs. You know, for a new building, everything was up to code. There were fire extinguishers on every floor. No fire was getting through here. But unfortunately, I had no room to say anything about it at all. Because I wasn't a firefighter. I was security. Benedict. Security. I got to floor 2. I've been far enough down the stairs that this time I actually had to go onto the floor to make my way back to the lobby. I was walking down a couple sets of stairs, my brain still feeling fuzzy. But there was something else with the fuzziness of my brain. It had taken me a very long time to articulate to myself what that feeling was, and I realized, for the first time in my life, I felt contentment. I made it back to the bottom floor. I started making my way back out to the lobby. I made it back into the lobby. A tragedy had occurred. There was a man laying on the floor dead. I walked over to him, but as he did,
Got him again. Oh,
a
okay.
high-pitched voiced man picked him up and yelped.
No.
I was very confused by what was happening before my eyes, so I just stood in the corner and oversaw that nobody did anything bad.
No, you don't.
Take it down.
Very well lubricated.
Hang on, I'm so sorry. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. You need to stay away from me. I'm gonna keep hitting you. I'm so sorry.
A lady punched the man with the high-pitched voice in the face.
Jesus, Daniel, are you okay?
I wasn't sure how much longer I could let this silliness go on for before I had to step in and get the man help.
I did not mean to do that to you.
Just charge her for the next 2 toes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I crouched down on the ground and looked at the red mess on the floor.
Have another.
There was blood and bits of meat all over the ground,
Over the blood on the floor.
like rain, but a different kind of rain. A rain born from pain.
I shall be back. I'm gonna go grab a cleaning kit.
I felt a little wisp of sadness in that moment. I was sworn to protect this place, but no matter where you go, the rain will always come eventually.
Just busy and shit. How are you?
Right now.
Not too bad. Just dealing with some stuff, to say the least.
Well,
You all good?
we got this.
Yeah, I'm alright.
I had a look over Nathan's shoulder.
Got good
I
friends
could
taking
see
care
he
of
was
themselves.
looking at some strange stuff on the computer.
Thank you.
I feel like I haven't seen you.
It looked like an MS Paint drawing of a guinea pig.
Yeah,
I didn't like it much, but who was I to judge the fella? At least he had a hobby. What hobbies did I have? I didn't really have nothing. All I had was drive. The drive to keep places secure. Maybe it was my childhood. Maybe it was that my pa could never keep me secure from the dangers of
Alright,
life.
fair
If he's from the basement, probably hit him, but like I feel like if he's from the basement, he might just instantly shoot.
It was that moment.
Yeah.
The bankers ran away scared. Must have been something to do with the hubbub that had happened a few moments prior. I overheard a lady say that she'd hit me if I wasn't from the basement. What was she talking about from the basement? I'd seen the security guards down there earlier when I was doing my rounds, but didn't she know I was a person just like them?
Are we sure?
They approached and said, "Are we sure?" And I pondered this for a moment. But I didn't have time to ponder too longly. Because as we were standing there, doing nothing, somebody burst through the door. It was the tow truck driver.
Dog, I
He
have,
was
I have
back.
one question.
Sure.
If you didn't wake up in your own bed, whose bed did you wake up in?
Yeah, that's I was curious. She's not at liberty to say. No, well, I can. I'm just thinking of how best to phrase it because it's technically Aubrey Williams' bed, but it's an apartment that she doesn't use and is letting me use for the time being.
Right, okay,
Right.
okay,
Yes.
fair enough.
A conversation broke out behind me about
Hey.
where Doc had slept the night
Daniel?
before. It sounded like people were trying to put an air on it that Doc had been sleeping around, but
Awfully punchable, man.
all she'd done is borrow a bed from somebody's apartment they weren't using.
I was just curious.
I chuckled to myself. And then I went outside to get some fresh air.
I saw it. I'm like, wait, what? Doc's waking up in someone else's bed?
I'd been on shift for 10 hours at that point, but I wasn't even beginning to get tired. As the morning rays started poking out and saying hello to the morning, The dew on the palm tree started drying up. And as I looked outside, I welcomed in a new day. A new day that was hopefully more secure than the last. Benedict security. I figured it was about time I went and checked out the car park. I mean the parking lot, fuck. Now that the sun was out, I could see the cars clearly. There was an old clanker out in the parking lot. I couldn't see what color it was because I was colorblind. He parked in a spot with no meter. That was smart. I like that. I've ever been a fan of the thrifty. I pawned the car, and then I moved back inside. Seeing that the magistrate had managed to find a way of getting his parking for free, a wave of admiration came over me. Put it this way. Living in a city with prices this high, you're working as a magistrate, you're making a decent wage. You could probably afford the parking meter. But nah, he figured it out. He figured out how to park without having to pay anybody anything.
Wow.
I made my way back inside as a furry ran past me. The wave of admiration I had for the magistrate not paying a parking meter suddenly disappeared when I saw a man in a bunny costume run inside and say meow. It was curious to me. Why would a bunny say meow?
I'm on medical leave. It's my comfort outfit.
The man stated he was on medical leave, and he took out a tablet. Maybe he was playing a game. I went back to the corner to oversee, and I started thinking a little bit more about my years as a teenager. I loved hobbies. I had so many hobbies. I would play baseball. I would play racquetball. I would play with my balls. Because, you know, I was developing. I had new interests.
Inside thoughts.
A lady walked over and punched me. I didn't feel great.
Fuck, it didn't work.
My left eye started to swell slightly. But I don't know what I'd done to offend her. So I just let it go. But then some guy came and started trying to tackle me. Now that was assault. I figured I'd call the police and report him. So I pulled out my phone and I went to the services tab. The man picked me up and started being really fucking annoying. So I got out of it and I carried on calling the police. I was not to be baited into getting myself into trouble by blowing his brains out, which he deserves. So I carried on calling the cops, hoping somebody would answer and save me from this fuck.
Why is he so fucking slippery?
You have reached an automated.
The cops didn't answer, so I tried another line.
State police.
A man with a kindly voice answered the phone, and I explained to him that I was a new security guard at the city hall, and a man with a tow truck and a really annoying voice kept tackling me and picking me up. He kept assaulting me. I asked if the nice officer over the phone could come down to City Hall and maybe have a word with him, asking to stop. I wasn't interested in pressing any kind of criminal charges. I just wanted the assault to end.
Okay, we'll send somebody up there. Thank you.
The officer replied in his normal kindly nature and agreed to send somebody down to check out the situation. I thanked the officer and hung up the phone, raw and ready to get back to my duties. After that nice talk on the phone, I stood back in the corner and oversaw what was happening in the city hall. Immediately when I got off the phone, the tow truck driver that had been assaulting me fled the scene, leaving the door. Seems like no matter what happened, I'd won and proved him to be a bit of a pussy. So, I took my phone back out, and I called the police line back. There was no
You have
answer,
reached an auto.
so I put the phone down. I was getting pretty thirsty again, so I made my way back over to the water cooler.
Oh my god, I got no chest.
Somebody started shining a flashlight at me. It woke me up a bit. I needed it. It had been a long shift.
You're welcome.
This time I went for ambient temperature water instead of the cool that I had before. I wasn't dehydrated. I think I was drinking the water because of boredom. I think it might be time to end my shift soon. Maybe head back to the hotel. Watch the game I'd set to record that morning.
I can get a shift for him.
Wasn't even that morning. It was the morning before. I was enjoying my new cop so much. My new job so much. I'd lost track of all time. I wasn't even being paid for it yet. Just like some guy I heard of. But hell, that's what people like me do. We do it for the love of the game. We do it for those we love. We do it to uphold some order. In a disordered city. A city that vomited blood like a bulimic vampire. Disordered, but beautiful. In its own way. Benedict security. The magistrate walked up behind me again and hit me with the gavel. I still wasn't offended. So long as it wasn't that tow truck driver tackling me and picking me up and being weird, I was fine with it. But I was starting to feel a bit unwell. So far, I'd taken 2 hits to the back of the head with a gavel, a punch to the face, and then I'd been tackled and picked up 4 times, all for no reason, other than being myself. Unfortunately, then a thought occurred to me. Maybe this was just a non-communicative way of telling me I wasn't welcome. Maybe I wasn't welcome here. It's like everywhere else.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Maybe I hadn't found my place. Maybe I should give it up. Maybe I should throw in the towel. Then Michael DeSanto appeared for some reason.
I don't know. Let's get you out of here. Let's get you out of here. I know.
At that point, I was just confused and hurt. So I figured I'd stand quietly for a bit. Once I got done thinking about vaping, I crossed my arms again. The lady who hit me, Doc, and the magistrate who hit me twice with the gavel, Terry, they came and stood side by side with me. Even though we'd never had any form of full communication, it felt like we were making our own little ragtag group, like we were a team in some way. And me,
We have our differences, but you are welcome here, sir.
I was the abused one. The one to the right of me said about having differences. I wasn't aware of any difference. I was just a man here trying to do his job like everybody else. I then realized that the police were probably still on their way. I should probably call them back and call them off, if they answered their service line. I had a weird, strange sensation that they probably wouldn't answer. So I waited.
I have a question for you.
I hung up the phone as the magistrate turned to me and said he had a question for me. I awaited, my ears gaped wide, ready for juicy knowledge to be slid inside them.
What color are you wearing?
The man asked me what color he was wearing. I didn't know. I've been declared legally colorblind since 42 minutes ago when I put the noir filter on.
Is that Guy Fieri?
No, it's Frigieri.
Oh.
A man entered the courtroom. I mean the city hall. He was dressed in flames. He had slick back hair and really cool glasses. He seemed like the kind of guy you could have a beer with, or talk about food with. He seemed like he had a lot of money.
Oh no.
I didn't have the confidence to ask him for any.
Hey, påsen!
The man approached me.
Sorry!
He punched me, but I think it was accidental, so I immediately forgave it and asked him how he was.
That's not the person I thought it was.
In the head. I'm so sorry.
The man...
There was a gentleman named Frigieri who looked kind of like that, who was teamed up with Corporal Saunders, Windy, Donald McRonald, and a few others, and they went about kidnapping people and cooking them into food.
What?
The conversation took a weird turn. The magistrate started listing off the names, which sounded like they were just trying to slip by copyright. He was talking about them being cannibals. The two men who had entered the courtroom had very shiny glasses. The one in the white asked if he could ask a question, so I waited to see who he was asking the question to.
You?
The narrator?
Do any one of you guys looking for buying some recycled material, or know anybody that are looking to buy some?
Mechanics are the best places to go for selling materials.
Mechanic shops?
Yes.
Oh,
mechanic shops and
thank
carpenters.
you. Carpenters.
The man asked if we wanted to buy any materials. Terry responded with, mech shops are the best way to sell them. What the fellas didn't realize is, they asked me if I wanted to buy materials, without realizing I was the material.
I knew we shouldn't have
And the
smoked
model.
that joint before we got there.
The model security guard at City Hall.
It feels like I'm on crack.
Benedict Security.
Exactly.
The Guy Fieri looking guy said he feels like he's on crack, which he probably was. It's Los Santos after all. Everybody gotta cure their boredom somehow. No matter what it does to those around them. I stepped outside to get some fresh air. As I walked past, I touched one of the pillars. Wasn't even real marble. Fake. It's like the justice in the city. You were listening the entire time you were cooking. What you make, woman? I went to stand outside so I could respond to a collaboration request on Google Chrome. Soup?
You have a splendid day.
The Guy Fieri looking guy wished me a splendid day as he left. I wished him one too. The guy in white walked past and also wished me a good day, but called me Baldy. I said, fuck you, but have a nice day. Feel like you're getting a cold in July? So I got a great tip for if you feel like you're getting a cold. Slam a bunch of multivitamins, and then just don't get a cold. Remember, soup's good to an extent for symptoms. But you're going to want to dose yourself up to the point you're just pissing them out. That's why I take so much zinc. For my gum. I figured I'd spend enough time dilly-dallying out on the steps of the city hall. I went back inside. The lobby had cleared out a bit. So I went to stand by the beautiful, the effervescent, the desirable Louise, and that prick Nathan who was drawing golfers on MS Paint. Oh, fuck. Oh. This character's gonna fucking exhaust me. I really hope this music is DMCA.
If this shit gets muted, I'll be fucked. I've been really shit at eating lately. I've been eating like one meal late at night. Oh, actually, as we weren't sure if I'd be around today after my tests, it's probably a good day to pin the sad video. Let's do it. Where has it gone? There we go. I'm repinning the acute withdrawal syndrome video as an hour of depressing shit. Enjoy. Yeah, I was a big time alcoholic. So I did a video on it. Well, I streamed it actually a few days after getting out of hospital for dialysis. A lady approached the desk, probably looking for a paycheck. Trying not to be rude, I went back to my station by the front door.
Hello.
She turned around and said hello as I left. I said hello back. I didn't want to waste any of her time though, so I kept walking. She wished me a great day. I wished her one back, and then I awkwardly stood by the front door. Yeah, alcohol withdrawals are fucking... it's a different beast. One of two withdrawals that can actually kill you. Fucking alcohol and benzos. Talk about it a lot on stream, to the point it begins to annoy people. So, yeah, I did a video on it. Fun fact, there is not a single organ in your body that alcohol will not fuck up. Oh, right.
You're doing a great job protecting City Hall.
The lady walked up to me by the door and said I was doing a great job protecting City Hall. That was the first nice thing somebody had said to me since being in the city. I've been hit with gavels. I've been picked up by annoying fucking tow truck drivers who wouldn't leave me alone. That comforted me.
Oh.
That I would remember. That would see me through the rest of my shift, which had now been going on for 14 hours.
Oh my god, you poor thing. Did they
I
at
wish
least
the-
feed you? Tell me they at least feed you.
She asked me if they fed me. And I recalled about 10 minutes ago when a lady came up and slipped a piece of wet pizza directly onto my hand to the point an olive went on my ring finger. And then she gave me a meat-free combo, even though I wasn't a lesbian.
Oh.
And the metrosexual man who gave me 5 steak dinners and a package of raw ground beef. So I said yes, and thanked the lady for the compliment. Wished she had a lovely day. I would remember her for the rest of my days, because she made one of mine. And it's worth it. She fell over. I asked her, did she need any medical attention?
Oh no, sweetie, I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you though.
She thanked me for checking she was okay, and I wished her a pleasant day.
Yeah, you too, sweetie.
But I called the ambulance anyway.
Oh no.
There were no medical
No,
staff.
You look healthy. Look. Oh. Yeah, no, I'm good. See?
For some reason, I wasn't surprised, and she came back. It's almost as if she could hear me narrating my life, and she said she was fine.
Good. Thank
At
you.
that point, I realized I was really thirsty again, so I went back over to the water cooler. I was trying to decide if I wanted ambient temperature or cooled water again. I figured I'd go for cooled water this time. I had ambient last time, and my throat was a little dry. Water's never as refreshing as when it's cold. If only my ex-wife was the same.
Fuck, there's been a lawyer pin.
At that moment I was enjoying my third cup of water when the magistrate walked back through. He held himself well for a man with scrawny structure. He ate something and left. As the water slipped past my lips, I realized, did I even deserve this? What was I doing here? I was at City Hall. They didn't even ask me to be here. I wasn't being paid. I was just there, rubbing the wax off their floors with my old tattered boots. Filling the room with my thoughts from an old tattered life. I drank their water. I went and placed the cup on a desk nearby. I pondered for a minute whether I should take a seat. Take a load off. I'd been up all night standing around. Then I read my chat and they were talking about breaking character. And I realized I was holding tea, so I was actually talking in city. And I got very embarrassed. And I took my finger off the button.
Yeah, you liked it? I was so happy to have run into you. I felt like doing something different. Because, today was quite a big day.
The City Hall had become as dead as my ma. So I figured I'd do my rounds again. Walk back through those old fake pillars.
I had my blood test this morning to follow up on if the treatment worked. So I was very nervous about the prospect of, because it was at the hospital, not like at the place just down the road from me. So I thought I was probably going to be asked to stay there until the results were through, because it's been 6 weeks now. And, there was obviously the chance I'd be admitted and have to stay, and then never leave. But no, I just went, they did them, took a lot of blood. I'm still fucking woozy. It was like over 20 vials. I think. I may be exaggerating that bit. I can't really remember. And then they just told me I could go. So I came home, then had my other appointment, then came home again and streamed. 14. Yeah, that shit fucks with you. I did get to use the joke I stole from Jess again, though. I said, I looked at her, and I said, "Ha! It would appear I've passed your test. I do have blood." Down in the garage, Linda was still there, lips pursed, bitch attitude about her, holding a submachine gun. I walked up beside her and asked her how her shift was going. It was at that moment I realized something was very wrong. I had to make a note. She had terrible trigger discipline. She was stood down in the garage, the safety was off her SMG. She had a finger on the trigger. If she were to accidentally discharge, it could ricochet and hurt one of the two car holders, patrons of cars that were present in the parking garage of the City Hall. I'd seen enough of that shit. I figured I'd continue my rounds, but this time I took a different route. I figured I'd go up through the parking garage exit, up the ramp, and check out the parking lot. Make sure people's meters were paid. I thought it would be funny to do a goofy little run, to entertain myself a bit. So I did. I ran out of that parking garage doing my goofy little laugh, and I chuckled to myself. Oh boy, when I tell you it was hot out there. It's like the air had been choked. All the moisture had left it. It was like a dry heat though. You know what I really couldn't stand was humidity. Back where I was from in Boston, we lived above the little restaurant. And the steam from the ragu, it would always fill the room up there. We'd be hot and wet. Like we were just soaking meatball vapors. into our very being, to our essence. I figured I'd see a bit of nature, so I walked across the lawn to get back to City Hall. I was walking past a big tree. It's an old oak, I believe. I saw somebody scratched a sign into it. It said the Tree of Healing. I chuckled to myself. You'll need more than a tree at a City Hall to heal me. You need a hole with Yggdrasil. That's the Norse tree of life. I then got more cinematic, and I headed back inside the City Hall. I ran up the steps because I needed the extra calories burnt. I thanked Cass for stopping by. Said I'll see you later. I'd forgotten to actually check the meters at the parking lot, but other than the local car I had stolen, the parking lot was empty. My God, what a wonderful day it was. It was beautiful out there. Look at it. Look at it out there. There was all that opportunity. You could be anything out there. You could be a crook.
Subscribe to your channel
be a
for
crop.
1 month.
You could be a crook. You could be a cop. Hell, you could get a job. You could own a business. You could become a judge, be a lawyer. You could do so much. You could help locals, but that was about it. But I was doing my own thing. Because I was Benedict security. Thanks for the sub, Cass. Appreciate you, darling. I walked inside and there were two new men sat down on the chairs talking. One of them was having marital issues. Turns out his wife had been fucking the baker from down the road. I had second-hand embarrassment for him, because he was spilling his guts to this guy. This clearly affluent businessman. He spilled his guts, and a bald security guard walked past and heard everything. Heard his shame, heard of his wife's infidelity. I walked up to him, and I used a term I learned on the internet. I called him a cuck boy. I chuckled and walked away. He didn't take to it kindly. He called me a slur, so I ignored it. I went back about my business. I figured I'd look pretty cool if I stood in the middle of the City Hall shuriken. I crossed my arms, so anybody that entered with nefarious purposes would know. I was like a dirty bowl. I was not to make trifle with. God, I was tired. I'd been there for so long and they hadn't even hired me on. The magistrate, I would hope, would give me an opportunity. He hit me in the head with a gavel. I figured it was time I probably made myself busy. I figured it was time to end my shift. So I took off the bars. And I went back to the stolen local car. I did my funny little run on the way to keep myself entertained. There was a man in the parking lot on a bike. As I walked past the big palm trees, I wished the man to have a pleasant day.
Thank you, you too, sir.
He returned the greeting, and I hoped he wouldn't see that I was getting into a stolen local car. I got stuck on the bollard, so I jumped over. I didn't have the key to the vehicle, so I ran out to the street. There was a man stood in the middle of the street. He looked like he was in some kind of distress. Distress or not, he was holding up traffic, and I needed one of those cars. So I went over
and despite my shame, I did it right there and then. I broke the window of the car, opened it from the outside, and pulled the person out. The passenger quickly exited, and I turned around. I was on my way to do an important ritual of mine. I was on my way to keep myself sharp. I opened up the GPS. And I marked the gun store. It was time for me to go see. Go prove to myself what I could do with a piece. And I would deal with all the painful memories that would come flooding back with it. What nobody at the city hall where I was working realized is that the reason I was in the city is because of where I came from in Boston. I already was a security guard at the city hall. But I had to leave. Because I caught a body. It was a young lad who came to the city hall because his license had been revoked for driving. Well, he was talking to the clerk and he started causing some hubbub. He said, "You can't take my license, I didn't do anything wrong." He started jostling the guy. Started jostling the clerk. So I says to him, I says, "Sir, look, I know you're upset, but you can't be touching him." But he carried on touching him. I begged him to stop, I truly did, but he just wouldn't. And then he made the worst mistake that would end his life. When I made the worst mistake of mine. He reached for something. I thought it was a gun. All I could see was a handle. I put 3 shots in his head, and then 2 more in his heart, and 1 in his penis. As his body slumped to the floor, I could see it wasn't a gun he was reaching for. It was his wallet. I figured that young man was probably going to try and pay off the clerk. But instead, his mom and pa would probably have to pay off a funeral director. Give him a burial. I got 10 out of 20 shots right on the shooting range. And then I realized I couldn't look down the sights of my gun. I got kind of annoyed. So I figured I'd go free for it. I'd just shoot the targets as they were down. It was clear I still had it. And when push came to shove, Benedict security could take a life for the good of those around him. I also shut the fire alarm because I thought it'd be funny. So I walked out of the gun store, a thought occurred to me. What if I didn't use my piece to defend the people at City Hall? What if I used something less lethal? What if I stopped ending lives in order to protect others? So I went and I spoke to the guy behind the counter, and I said to him, "Hey, fellow Baldy, I know you got a goatee and I don't, but we ain't so different, is we? You're just trying to protect people indirectly, while I'm trying to do it directly. What can you give me that could help me save lives without taking them? Please, help me kill the sickness in me." He said, "Well, maybe what you need is just a flashlight, because it's clear you're trying to light up the world." I thought it was a great idea. And then I realized I was out of money. So I bought 2 flashlights. He said something about drinking. Little did he know I'd been dry for 2 months. Ever since Barbara left me. She said, "It's me at the bottle." And I said, "How's about this? How's about neither of yous?" I went back to my car so I could carry on my shift at City Hall.
Hello.
A man pulled up in the car and he
Hello.
greeted me. I said hello back.
Are you looking for your car?
He asked me if I was looking for my car. Little did he know, I had the stolen local car right in front of him. I got back in it and went back to City Hall. That asshole tow truck driver was there too. As I went back to City Hall, I realized all I'd had was water. I was getting famished. I figured it was time to get back to City Hall. Take my lunch break. Go to the cafeteria, maybe. I didn't realize what the time was, that there'd been no storm yet. Maybe it was delayed. I should probably go check the email. Just to see. I realized I now had 2 stolen local cars in the parking lot. But hey, tow truck drivers gotta eat as well. Even if he is an annoying asshole. I did my silly little run up the steps at the City Hall. Once I entered, I went around to the cafeteria. BOC they called it. Didn't know what it stood for. I figured, you know what? I'm keeping the place safe. I deserve a good chair. So I sat down at one of the nice tables. I relaxed myself, but not like that. When I took out my lunch, I figured I'd eat the raw ground beef first. You know, it's like eating your veggies first. Get rid of the food you don't like. And it was pretty good. I didn't feel so good, so I stood up. Something in my tummy was feeling a bit weird. I didn't know what was wrong. So I drank one of my Barney's beverages. And I went back into the lobby of the City Hall. And then I fucking died.